Hi guys, we are here with lesson 4 in module 6, and we're going to work with bar graphs and creating a scale for our bar graphs. So um, rather than try to explain to you what that means, I'm going to show you because it's going to make a lot more sense if you actually see it rather than just hear me talk about it. So let's take a look. So we get to it right away on this first problem here. It says this chart below shows the number of magazines sold by each student. So we have the student's name on the top, and then we have the number of magazines each one sold. So up until this point, we've been working with relatively low numbers in all of our graphs, 2, 8, 10, things like, small numbers. But now you can see that we have numbers that are up in the hundreds. So it doesn't make any sense to, start here and be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's called the scale. The numbers on the side here are called the scale. Now, each of these gaps is an even size, so we have to count by a number here. So like if I pick, I don't know, if I picked 20 there, I'm not going to eventually, but if I put 20 there, I couldn't put like 40 here because I'm counting by 20s, and then put 50 here because that's not counting by 20s. You have to keep counting by the same number as you go. Let me grab a different pencil. This one just broke. All right, so we need to look at the numbers we have here, and we have to decide what we should use here. So we go from 100 to 600. So if I counted by hundreds, 100, 200, 300, 500, 600, that would work, right? If I started with 100, so 0, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, I could fit all, you want to make sure that you could fit all of these numbers onto your bar graph, and I can if I count by hundreds. Now I could have done something I counted by 200s, but that would have been, it would have made my 100 would have been like really small down here. So what you want to do when you're making a scale is use basically like, make sure you have all the numbers included, make sure you can fit them all in the graph, but also make sure that they're that you're using all. But you don't want to count like, by, let's say 300s, go like 300, 600, 900, 1200, 1500, 1800, because you have nothing up in this, like then it's all going to be blank up here. That's wasted space in your graph. You want to stretch your numbers out to the maximum that you can while still including all of the information that's in your table. All right, the other thing that hasn't been done for us is you'll notice it says student down here, but they don't have the names yet. So we need to include those. So Ben, Rachel, Jeff, Stanley, and Debbie. Okay, so Ben sold 300. So I'm going to make a rectangle for Ben that goes to 300. Rachel sold 250. Well, again, we don't have 50s on here, but we know that 250 is halfway between 200 and 300. So Rachel sold 250. Jeff sold 100. Well, that one's easy because we have 100 right on here. Stanley sold 450. Again, there's no 50 on here, but 400 and 500 are, and 450 is right between them. So that's right about here. And Debbie sold 600. So we're going to go all the way up to the top for that. And that's a scaled, creating a scale for our bar graph there. It says explain, and now the next part says explain why you chose this scale. That's sort of what I was talking about in the beginning. And we chose this scale because it includes all the information from the table. And like we don't have too many extra numbers. Let me give you an example of what I mean by that. Like technically, if you counted by 1,000, you went 0, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, you could still fit all this information on here, right? But then everything is going to be happening between here. If that was 0 and that was 1,000, everything, all these things would be like little tiny marks on here. So they'd all fit technically, but we'd have a lot of extra numbers, a lot of wasted space. So that's what I mean when I say that we don't have too many extra numbers. We're not wasting all this space up here. We've used our space efficiently. How many fewer magazines did Debbie sell than Ben and Stanley combined? So read this question carefully, because a lot of people say, well, Debbie sold the most. What do you mean? How many less did she sell? Or how many fewer did she sell? So Ben and Stanley combined. So we did do that part first. That's step one. Well, Ben sold 300. Stanley sold 450. Equals 750. Okay, so we have 750 for those two combined, and we're going to subtract 600 because that's how many Debbie sold. So we're finding difference. When you're finding difference, you subtract. 750 minus 600 equals 150 fewer magazines. Now, how many more magazines did Debbie and Jeff sell than Ben and Rachel? So we're going to group Debbie and Jeff together. We're going to group Ben and Rachel together. You can even draw a circle like that on your problem, like if it helps you. Like group them together so you know who you're trying to find. I'm actually gonna do the work right under here. Debbie sold 600. Jeff sold 100. So that's 700 altogether. Ben sold 300. Plus Rachel sold, what did Rachel sell? 250. So that equals 550. So now I take 700 minus 550 equals 150. Same answer as above. More magazines. Notice I said more magazines because the question asked us how many more did Debbie and Jeff sell than Ben and Rachel. So they sold 150 more. Whereas up here, it was asking how many fewer she sold. So pay attention to the wording of the problem so that you can include it in your include it correctly in your answer. And again, if you needed to line those up, vertically, you could do that too. 700 minus 550. This is a review of some stuff we've done earlier. 0 minus 0 is 0. We have 0 minus, or 0 tens minus 5 tens we can't do without some help here. So we go over here and make that 600s and take 10 tens and put them here. 10 minus 5 is 5. 6 minus 5 is 1. That's a little review of how to do that regrouping with zeros. All right. Here we go. Now we have a fully complete bar graph. We're going to answer some questions about it. Notice we have a title at the top. So we're studying Carnival visitors. We have the number of visitors listed on the side and the days listed on the bottom. So this graph is very well labeled. I could give this to any of you. You could tell me right away what's being looked at, what's being explained by this graph. Okay, how many people come to the Carnival? It's measured here on the left side, and the days of the week are at the bottom. That's a good example when you're creating your own bar graphs to have a title and labels on both of the axes or both sides. So now it's going to ask us, how many fewer visitors were there on the least busy day than on the busiest day? So we have to identify those days first. What's the least busy day on here? The least busy day was on Thursday. And Thursday had, okay, we have to use our scale here. So 50, 100, 150. And then we're not quite to 200. So we must be counting by tens here. 160, 170, 180, 190, 200. So yes, we're counting by tens with these little marks. So that's 190. I'm going to write it right under there. And then our busiest day was Wednesday. So we go all the way up to 400, 410, 420, 430. So again, knowing your scale, understanding what these little marks mean, that's really important. So, and we've had some practice with that, especially like in module 2. So you guys should be comfortable doing that. So now we find difference. We're going to do a lot of finding difference when we're working with graphs. So 430 minus 190. 0 minus 0 is 0. 3 minus 9 I can't do, so I come over here. I can't do in this way, so I do some borrowing. 13 minus 9 is 4. 3 minus 1 is 2, so 240 fewer visitors. Notice I look at that word fewer in my problem, so I know what it is that I'm supposed to be answering when I complete this work. And then the next part says, how many more visitors attended the carnival on Monday and Tuesday combined than on Thursday and Friday combined? So Monday and Tuesday combined. Let's see, we have to go figure out what those were first. So Monday, I go all the way up to 300, and then 310, 320, 330, 340. So Monday was 340. Tuesday, let's see, Tuesday was right at 300. That was an easy one to see. So we're gonna make that 640. Thursday, we already know is 190. And Friday is 350, 360, 370. So let's add 190 and 370. You can do it this way. You could do it. This is a good one for mental math too. I would take 10 from the 370, give it to the 190, make it 200, and then add 200 to 360 to get 560. So let's do it that way. Use those mental math strategies you worked on. So we're going to compare 640 to 560. We're going to do that by subtracting them, or subtracting 560 from 640. 0, 8. So 80 more visitors came on Monday and Tuesday than they did on Thursday and Friday. And again, all that information, we didn't have a table with us today. We just had this graph, but all that information was contained in the graph there. All right, so we have been getting quite a bit of experience with scaled bar graphs. Hopefully you're gaining confidence with them and are ready to move on to what comes next in this module.